nowadays you can't just kind of go easy sometimes because the demand is so high to kind of do these silly things. It's like, oh, fucking, I'll just do one. So I reckon 3 years and push, and then hopefully go into my own teaching, like school, because I prefer to go through that route now, kind of showing people the way I was taught, because my turnaround in my career was when I met Spud.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was kind of like when I met him, him and Barry, Darmin Dum Charles,
Yep,
from SAS, they kind of watched. I sent him one of my matches, and literally everything was wrong. So from that day, it was like U-turned. So it was like, so it's kind of everything that they've kind of passed to me, I'd like to pass on to students as well, who are actually willing to learn and not just be stupid.
it's interesting you say that, because Barry, obviously a very good friend of mine, because he's Cypriot, and I see him every time he comes out. Obviously, I spend a lot of time with Barry. He seems to have helped a lot of people. Now, Barry's never wrestled, he's never done anything, but he seems to have a brilliant mind for wrestling.
Yeah, it was because I think it was every Sunday. I think we spent like 5-6 hours on the phone, just going through like the reasons why you did it, and like why did you turn this way when you should have gone this way. And it's kind of because obviously he had a mind for movies and like how to get the best kind of angle of everything. It's kind of you see wrestling from a different light when you're training with him, and everything that I knew, I was like, oh my god, I am so shit. So and then he was like no, this is just the way that everyone was performing. But since then, I feel like the group that he trained like changed British wrestling a lot, because then it was kind of like that's when we started passing on that knowledge to other people. It was very selected people, but now you'll see people now when they get punched in the face, they'll throw the right arm out, which is like that was what we were taught. Well, we called it the SAS arm, because when you get punched, it's like you wave it like a big rainbow. So it's like, and then you hold your face. But when you watch back before our training, you get punched, it was just like you didn't sell any of it. You're just like, okay, next spot.
Yeah. I was always taught, sell it like a real fight. What would you do in a real fight? Would you just kind of throw your head back and then stick your face out for another punch? No, you'd cover up, and you'd that's what I think it's dead simple selling. People don't do it, but it's dead simple. Just pretend you're in a real fight. Yeah,
and if you're a heel, you want to protect your face. Really, won't you? Be a coward, you'd move away, you'd turn your back, and you'd hold your face. It's like when you see that now, heels are like going toe to toe with a baby face. It's like you're kind of not doing your job. You've been a dickhead the whole match, and as soon as you get tagged, you should be kind of, all right, now I'm a coward, wince away. But people prefer to do the fights.
Well, yeah, if you're a cowardly heel, that works fine, doesn't it? Now, one thing I've got to say about you, and I admire for this, because obviously when I came back from Cyprus to the UK, I think I saw you perform 3 times. And one thing that you've got down pat is you are not a cool heel, you are a heel. And you generally, everybody thinks you're a little chavvy dickhead. And I think you've got that down brilliantly. What is the gimmick? The gimmick is you're a chav. But not like so that there's been chavs, hasn't there? Like proper Burberry chavs and all that. You're just kind of a towny dickhead.
Yeah, because when I used to like train with Spud and stuff, we used to always have like an idea of a gimmick where you could take it to any country, in any promotion, and it kind of still worked. But obviously, it was kind of like because live near Manchester City, they're like the hated team. Obviously, them and Chelsea, because they bought the football league with the players. So it was kind of like, well, the world knows football or soccer. Everybody knows Manchester has 2 teams, whether if it's red or blue. So it's kind of like I kind of had the football idea, but then I kind of thought to myself, what kind of people are kind of wary of, or just think he's an absolute dick, I just want him to get punched. And I remember walking to my local co-op once, and there was a kid there outside the shop with his hat on, hands down his pants, just spitting on the floor. And and just like saying, "What the fuck are you looking at?"
Yeah.
And I just pictured, and I thought that would be amazing because I really wanted to punch him.
Yeah.
And it was like being so rude to people and all that, and laughing, and I just thought that would be perfect for wrestling. So when I kind of pitched the idea of this character to people, everyone was like, if you want to. And then as soon as I did it, it was like, fuck me, that actually works. I actually hated you because I did 9 years of a baby face. I never changed. Yeah. So everyone was like, would it work? So it's giving me an extra probably 4 or 5 years of wrestling life just because of this character, because I can kind of don't have to do anything, just my offense is using my mouth, so just wind them up that way.
No, absolutely. I think you've got it down pat. I think it's brilliant, though. It is literally one of those people. The reason I don't want to move back to England is because of all the stupid chavvy towny lads that go out drinking and, like you say, spitting on the floor. What the fuck are you looking at? Attitude kind of thing. Yeah. I think you put that across brilliantly. Yeah,
thank you.
Right, so obviously, like you said, you had 9 years of being a total baby face in your pleather pants, the old shiny pants and the kick pads and all this kind of thing, obviously. So when you came out of training with Chris Curtis, what were some of the first places you went to?
I still saw myself as a trainee for probably about 5 or 6 years into my career, because I went to Nottingham, NBW, I think it was.
Norton, Jerry Norton.
Yes. Such a legend. I think that's the word we use.
Yeah.
So Keith Meyer took the sessions there, and I used to see a girl in Stoke, so I used to travel to hers, and then on a Sunday, Keith would pick me up and then take us to Nottingham to train. So I used to do their academy shows and a few other shows, but I still felt like, because I was still training, I was still classed as a trainee. So, and then people started hearing, or it wasn't hearing, I think they were more taking the piss. It was like, Bubblegum. It's like, what kind of a wrestling name's that? That's.
Where did that come from?
That was actually Dirk at one of the last sessions I had with Chris. Because obviously when I started, I was Simon Phoenix.
Simon Phoenix, a classic blue-eyed British name.
Yeah. I literally, that name came about because he threw me into the Rumble, and he was just like, you need a name. And then the night before, I just watched Demolition Man. And obviously Wesley Snipes, and obviously he's called Simon Phoenix. So I was like, Simon Phoenix. And I just couldn't change it. I just didn't want to. I just wanted to keep wrestling. And everyone was just like, hi, Simon. And it's like, oh, God, this is weird. And then Dirk was like, he had this, because we used to read comics and stuff together. He used to give me some of his old comics. And he was just like, there's this character that I really think you should use. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, Bubblegum. I was like, really? I was like, don't you think people will take the piss? And he was like, well, no, because it's, it's just cheesy. And it's kind of like, because I had the long blonde hair, used to come out to Hanson, and he was like, it's perfect. So that's how it started, and the fucker's not gone.
You couldn't change it now, could you?
No, and it's embarrassing sometimes, because when people are like, you're a wrestler, aren't you? It's like, what's your fighting name? I was like, oh, fuck, it's Bubblegum. And they just go, well, what? It's like, yes, but don't ask.
So, obviously, I think the first time we met was when you was doing FWA. Yes. Now, I can imagine at the time FWA was seen as the place to be in Britain, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Was that a real buzz for you getting into the FWA?
It was, yeah, because that's when I met people like Aviv and Ross Jordan, Spud. Because it was weird, because me and Ligero kind of broke in the business at the same time, and me getting the opportunities before him, it was kind of like, holy shit, the North guy for the region was like, they chose me. So being in, where did I go down? I think it was Enfield. I think my first one was, and Alex. I don't know if this was ever a rib, but I don't know. But he was like, you know what you should do? You should dye your hair pink. So I fucking did it, and I wore my yellow pleathers, and
awesome.
Yeah, and I wrestled Aviv the first time. It was just, I was so nervous, because it felt like, because watching FWA on Bravo as well.
Yeah.
At that time with Johnny and Jody, you know, you just being in the room with all them guys, you're just thinking, fucking hell, this is crazy. But, you know, that we all have to start a journey somewhere, and when it starts, it like, you know, FWA was massive.
Yeah. It seemed to be, didn't it? Yeah. It wasn't, but it seemed to be.
Yeah, it was like the place to be. So as soon as like I got the invitation to be there, I just felt like, oh God, maybe I have actually established myself as a British wrestler. But it's just a shame I was on like the back end of it before it kind of folded.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame, yeah.
Because doing them, the Morecambe Dome shows for FWA was that was different. That was something different, that was.
It was good, the Dome. I used to love doing the Dome because it wasn't the FWA audience. It was a local audience. Even though I was kind of knackered and broken down when I was doing Morecambe by the end, I used to love doing it. And obviously I was his lead heel there, and we had some great fun. I remember having a riot one time with a Rumble. I won the Rumble, and there was a legit riot. You know, there was people trying to get in the ring, and I was getting cans thrown at my head. And it's like 20 years earlier because it doesn't happen anymore.
No, that's a proper heel. Now it's kind of, if a heel wins something, they'll be like, oh, he's amazing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh. So it's kind of all the hard work you've done. I mean, it's nice, you know. I have people talk to me all the time, and it's like, you're one of my favorite wrestlers, and it's like, because your character's so good, and yet some people get pissed off, like saying like, oh, you shouldn't cheer for the bad guys and all this stuff. So one of these young kids got really upset because he was like, oh, I'm a Bubblegum fan, and this older person was like, he's a fucking heel, you shouldn't be doing this, proper harsh. So I said to him, I was like, well, hang on a second. I was like, do you watch movies? And he was like, yeah. I was like, do you watch the Batman, the new trilogies? I was like, yeah. I said, who was your favorite in them? I said, and guaranteed it was the Joker or Bane.
Yeah.
And they were like, because I was like, because guarantee everybody prefers them to Batman.
Yeah.
So it's like they were seen as the cool villains, but, you know, there were arsonists and mass murderers, but we all like them. So I put that across to him, and he didn't have anything to come back with. Yeah. So it's like, so are you trying to say that Heath Ledger and Tom Hardy couldn't do their job properly? And he was just like, And I was just like, so just go away. People are allowed their opinion. It's just that, you know, when heel wrestlers do moves to get a pop, it's kind of like all you're doing is disrespecting the babyface. Yeah. So that's the only way I see things.
It's difficult for guys like you that have that style of wrestling. I mean, I've watched a few of the PCW things, you know, online with yourself and Chris Travis, and like you say, on against who's the chap? What was he called? Finn Balor. What was he called? Devitt and things. Yeah. And it's difficult for you because you are doing those style of matches that are doing moves where you're going to get a pop.
Yes. Yeah, where you have to kind of. It's depending on your environment, isn't it? It's kind of like, as a wrestler nowadays, you have to adapt to every single style. So it's kind of like if someone, because there's loads of promotions, but there's very little spots. Sometimes you kind of be like, throw you in an indie 6-way match, and it's like, oh, it's like you either get lost or you get recognized. So it's kind of like, what can you do to get recognized? It's just, I always think it's all on the wrestler, really. Yeah. If you can get over without doing a move or doing anything like that, then, you know, you're perfect. And I think the prime example, do you know CJ Banks?
I've met him a few times at Morecambe. He never smiled much. Yeah.
No, that's him. That's him to a T. When he goes out, he doesn't do anything. He's very simple. His offense is so simple and effective. His offense is like his mouth as well. Yeah. And I always, whenever I teach or do seminars, he's kind of the person I always focus on. It's kind of like, that's a heel. He doesn't pop for moves. He doesn't give a shit, but he'll do his job and put the babyface over. Yeah. That's, you know, his meaning. And, you know, because I wrestled Spud recently. We did like the tribute to the troops at Preston.
Okay.
And when he was here, it was just like everything that he had in mind, I already had in mind as well. So it was kind of like, you know, it was just all him, because they were there to see Spud. They weren't there for me. Some might have been, but when the casuals come from, oh, it's a TNA star. So it's kind of like, I knew my place. I knew I did my part, he did his part. We went to, we just went out there and did it. So